All right, well, let me start off by telling you just a little bit about Citizenserve as a company and specifically what that means for you, kind of how we work with our customers. And so Citizenserve, we've been in business 18 years. We started from the very beginning as a software as a service, a cloud-based software as a service. We've never had, a version of our software that we installed locally on our customers' servers. So if you're looking for a web-based application, specifically cloud-based, we've been doing that from our inception. That means for us, we stay very true to the browser architecture. So we're going to work on any device and any browser. So there's no software that you or your constituents have to download or update or, be out of sync. We're going to work on any device, any browser, anywhere that you've got a connection to the internet. We also started 18 years ago with a complete support model for our customers, and we still do that today. So we realize it's the challenge for a municipality to get kind of incremental budget when you want to change or tweak or update stuff. So we've always offered that for our customers, which means anything that anyone who's a user in Citizenserve wants to have done outside of a data migration or integration within their system, we're going to do for you, and we do it very quickly. So if you want to add a report, you want to add a permit, you want to change your workflows, you want to change your fees across all your permits, you need somebody trained that came in to replace someone else, all those are the types of things that we do as part of support. I think the last year we got 91% of the things that we got asked to do each day done that very same day. So it's not like you're going to ask us and it's going to take forever. We get on it. So support is a very, very important part of how we work with our customers. We also have a lot of content out here on the website. So we've got pricing if you were interested in it. We've got some short demos under the demo section. If you wanted to do a little cup of coffee length, look at inspections or some reporting. We also have over 200 other demos underneath the live demo tab that are longer, deeper dive type of demos. So a little bit about us. If you guys have any questions that I can answer about Citizenserve before I turn it over to Misha and she gets started?
No, I'm good.
So Nicole, I thought you had said that you had heard of us from someone else in Pennsylvania, one of our existing customers, and I don't remember who you said that might have been. Do you remember?
Lansdowne Borough.
Oh, Lansdowne. Okay, good. All right. Well, Michelle, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to be here to answer any questions that come up around process or implementations, those types of things. So,
thanks, Ray. All right, so we're staring at the Citizenserve homepage, and this is where staff log into the system through the login button. But I want to point out that the modules that we offer are listed at the bottom of the screen. So we have a module for licensing, one for code, one for permitting, one for planning and zoning, one for request tracking, and the final module is our online portal, and that's geared towards your constituents. So we're going to start our demo today, and we're going to touch on licensing and permitting and planning and code. So 5 out of the 6, that'll be pretty good. So we're going to jump into the portal, and while we're here, let's imagine putting on a hard hat or carrying a briefcase. This is for your constituents, it's not for your staff. So this is a page that's configurable. We want to put your logo at the top. In fact, I'm zoomed in a little bit. Let's scroll out so you can see. We offer all of our services on the home page. And we want this to be a one-stop shop for your constituents. So when they come here, they can get all the information about your processes. So in addition to this home page, which provides them links to apply, they can also click on things like learn more about permitting. This is the same as going up to the services page and clicking on permits. It's going to take you to some additional content. We can configure this to be specific to Darby Township. Here, we want to lead your constituents through sort of a breadcrumb trail. They may be asking the question, do I need a permit? They can come to this page, and we would configure it with the projects that do and that don't require a permit on your side. Now, the next step for them would be to go to submittal requirements, and this again would be a configured page to Darby's permit types and requirements. So these all can link to your website or PDFs or anywhere else on the state site if you need that. Now, the next step would be to apply, but we're not going to apply just yet. There are a couple things I want to show you. We offer reporting to your constituents. Well, we're just here as John and Jane Q Public. We haven't logged into the system. We'll do that in a minute. But we can provide reports so that you can deliver information to your constituents and hopefully save yourself some counter visits, right? So we have list reports and map reports, pie charts. And on the staff side, we could do mass merges as well. So let's run this code complaint report. It's a map report. It just is going to pull in some colorful pins, so it's kind of fun. I'm going to go back. Sorry, let's go back to 2019 when I have more.
Make it zoom in a little, please. Thank you.
Because you want to be able to see it, you bet. Let me just make it a little bit bigger. So let's run the report and then we'll see how it looks. You tell me if you need me to zoom in, okay? So in this map, what we're seeing is, part of Pismo Bay in California. It has some map pins here. Is this close enough? Do you want me to zoom in a little bit?
No, that's
fine.
Well, so hopefully you recognize the back end, not because you're familiar with this part of the California coast, but because this is Google Maps, right? We use that as our back end. And when your constituents come here, they can use all the features. Like I just clicked and dragged to recenter these pins. We can zoom in. We can go to the satellite view. We can click on the street view guy and drop them on the street. Oh, I hope this doesn't hurt too bad. This probably wasn't taken, but there's a little bit of warmth and sunshine for you.
I feel warmer already.
Yeah.
Well, which we should go back and visit that every couple of minutes to warm up your bones. Good grief. So another feature of a map pin or a map is that you get a pin and you can click on the pin and it'll pull up additional details. So if you request a report with your details, that's what'll pop up when you click a pin in that report that you request. So this is just one example. Let's run back and maybe we'll run the pie chart report for restaurant complaints. And this is just another way to present data. So if you have an idea of what you want, you can ask us to build that for you. If you need some ideas, we can give you some suggestions on how to present it. And let's go again, we're going to go just from 2019 to 2021. This is going to feed all of these restaurant complaints into this pie chart. You can see there's a legend up on the right. It tells you the category and the totals. If you hover over these pie pieces, it's also going to pull up that data for you. So it's just an example again of another type of report. So we're going to skip over a couple of these tabs. I'll take you to the contacts tab. This is another way to present your information to your constituents. We want to give them your department information, give them some links for directions. But this is HTML, so we can configure this in any number of ways. If you don't like the images, we have lots of stock photos to pick from, or you can provide your own. So we can configure this to really match the look and feel of your current site. And if we can answer your constituents' questions, then we figure this is time, space well spent. So one more cool thing to see before we apply, and that's that the portal was written with HTML responsive design. So what that means is if you come to the site using your cell phone, the content is going to shrink and appear on your screen in a logical way. So instead of 2 columns, you now have 1 column with all the data, so you can see it on your cell phone screen. And instead of that clickable menu on the right, you now have a finger clickable menu in the center of your screen. So we can go to the home page. And from here, you can click on apply for permit. Now, the same is true if you came on, say, a tablet. The content is going to stretch and fit your screen in a reasonable way. And the reason this is important now is because with so many devices that can deliver a browser, you can't dictate how your users come to your site. And with this, you don't have to. So I've clicked on the apply button, and it's taken us to the login page. So here, I'm going to log in with my credentials, but I want to show you what new users would get to. If you didn't have a portal account and you wanted to apply for a permit, you need to register to create this portal account so that you can track your submissions. Now, we don't have to do this from a tablet size page. So I'm going to show you a couple different registration types, but I'm already registered, so I'm not going to go through the process. Now, this is a drop down in the system. Every dropdown is configurable. So what we're seeing is the build for our demo environment, the town of Buena Vista. So if you wanted to call out your contractors by trade, you could have electricians, plumbers, trench diggers, whatever you license your contractors for. Those could all be listed here. I want to show you this generic contractor registration. Anything with the red pipe in front of it is a required field. So if you scroll down, you can see we've got a couple required, some not required. As we scroll down, it's a pretty short form. So we're gathering all of this data by default, but if you have additional data that you need to collect about your contractors, we can add custom fields at the bottom of the form, and we'll talk more about custom fields in just a second. So this is an example registration for your contractors. And if I switch it to, say, the anonymous type, you see way less fields here. So we allow anonymous registrations for, say, something like a code enforcement complaint, but we don't allow people to register anonymously and then submit a permit application, right? You need to know who they are, who you're assigning this permit to or approving it to. So this is just another type of registration. It shows you sort of the difference between these different forms. So we got here by clicking the Apply Now button. I'm going to go back and I'm going to put in my credentials here. Now, when we get logged in, it's going to take me to the application page. And here I can pick the application type I want. So you see another drop down here. All of these permits were built for this environment. We'll build as many permits as you need using custom fields. So I'm going to fill out just a couple of these basic input fields, and then we'll talk about custom fields more. We'll call this a new single family home. So if I said that this were an existing project, I could link in a project number and it would tie these applications together. If you get something that comes in without a link, but it needs one, you can move things on the staff site as well. We'll say that this is for a new project, and then I'm going to put in my address information. So I really want 941 Bakersfield, but if I put in 9 Bake and I click Find Address, it's going to search my parcel data and pull in everything that matches that request. And when I pick the address that I want, it's going to pull in parcel and ownership data. So now that we have that address information here, you can see that we have an application that started here. So this would be a good time to talk about custom fields. This is foundational to the application. You may get a different title here in work description, but this is all basic information that we need to set up your application. But then anything below the gray line would be built for you using custom fields. So let's talk about what a custom field is. So this is my little handy dandy handout. It has 33 different types of custom fields. We use any of these types to build your applications, like for your permits and licenses, or for your contact cards, like those registration cards I was showing you, or any inspection activities or your code cases themselves. So we can customize each of these or configure each of these to collect the data that you need in the format that you need it. So on a permit or license, that project description field or work description, that would be something like a long text field. And if you had a contractor that you wanted to add to that application, that would be something like a contact listing. And we could even make it a license listing for active license holders in the system. On something like a license, you might have a field called a NAICS code, right? And that is a field that has hundreds of entries. So that would be a searchable drop-down box. So we have all of these different field types to help your applicants give you the information you need, right? In a way that makes sense to them and to you. So do you have any questions about this before I start filling out some of our custom fields?
No. That's good.
All right, let's do it. So I'm going to mostly stick to the red fields, but remember what you're seeing is a sample permit. If this is not the permit that you have to have, right? We would take your paper applications, build them for you, show them to you, and then give you the option to give us feedback. So I'm going to skip the, are you going to install a swimming pool or dry your site? But I do want to answer or enter structure information. So this is a table. It's a custom table within a table field. And here I'm going to enter my occupancy type. So this is a drop-down field. I can pick with my mouse, but if I hit R a couple times, it gets me the entry that I want. And if I look at construction type, this is a shorter list, so I'll just click it with my mouse. Let's say it's 2,000 square feet. And our construction cost will be, 205,000. And then we can add a row. So this is like property values going through the roof for COVID. So we'll just take it. But these are used in our valuation calculations, right? So if we wanted to build, a utility structure or maybe a storage, we'll say this will be for our garage. We'll use the same construction type. Maybe this is a 500 square foot garage. And 4,500. So now we've got two different structures there. And now we can go to the contact section. So I can add a contractor here. And the way this field is set up, it's going to list all of the active contractors in the system when I start typing a name. So when I type in Smith, we have one active plumber. So let's add him to this. But we can also link to your registration. So if you're not going to license your contractors in the township, then you can just have them register and you can find them this way as well. So we have a different set of Smiths in the system. We can do document uploads here. So let's upload a site plan.
Back a second. When you
Yeah.
type in the contractor, say it's a new contractor, will it notice that and you'll have to save it?
Like it'll say, you're not listed here, you have to go back and create a license?
Okay.
Or,
All right, I
Yeah,
see.
so this is a little bit, the way that this is integrated into this environment here, we're doing contractor registration. So any contractor who's registered will show up there. If it's
Okay,
a
got
new one, they wouldn't. You guys may not be doing that.
Okay, right. All right, I understand now.
That's why I said that'll help too. I mean, about a state, license,
So,
it goes into
yeah,
that system.
so when they register, are they uploading their credentials? Like state licenses and things of that nature?
if you need them to, yeah, they can upload those. We'd also want to track that expiration date, and the system can then prompt you to say, oh, this contractor is
Mhm.
expired, don't
Alright.
issue this permit.
Right.
That's why the copy. of-
So that's an example. We might have a field on that registration where they just upload their document. And then when that registration comes to the staff side, you're going to look at that document and you'll put the insurance end date on it as an example, right? And then we can notify you, that kind of thing. So
Okay, or
All right, so I've clicked on one of these select file fields for the site plan. So I'm selecting the site plan from my computer. These document types are all called out separately. So it's a one-to-one. If I want to upload a landscape plan, I select the file. I picked my landscape plan, and now it populates that field. For planning and zoning, you might want to have a one-to-many. So you just have, PDFs of plot plan, and then they can upload as many as they need. So we can give you multiple options for uploading files. And if you notice now we're at the bottom of the form. So we have some terms and conditions here. We can do a checkbox to say that you agree. In this case, we're entering our initials. So I'll just put my initials here to say that I agree to all terms. And then we have a signature box. So I'm just going to use my mouse and we will make a signature and we'll save it. Now, if I weren't ready to submit, I could click save for later and it would save this application in my profile. That's before the town gets it. I'm ready to submit though. So when I click this button, the system's going to check and make sure that all of those required fields are filled out. If I'd missed one, it would have told me, this is a required field. I would click OK and it would take me to that field. So it's not going to let your applicants put in an incomplete application. When we get this, it knows that all of my questions have been filled out. So now I can click OK and it's going to take me to the payment processor. And here we are ready to pay for this permit. So we want to load your fee structure into the system so that whatever your applicants enter gets charged appropriately. In this case, we're charging a plan review fee at the beginning, but then
Credit card.
Oh, credit card. Okay.
credit card. That's right. Are you
Well,
guys
no,
not taking credit
We
cards
don't
right now?
take check right now,
Money order.
or money order, right?
Money order, right?
Might have-
what, yeah, just curious, why is that?
Don't ask me.
What was it?
we're slowly moving into the
Yeah, they're getting
21st
there.
century. Yeah, we're a little antiquated, but we're getting there.
All right. I mean, it's very easy for us to enable you to take payments through the portal.
Okay.
It's just, we've got about 30 different payment processors we've integrated. If you use one of those, there's no charge from us. I mean, you'd have to set up a relationship with them and they're going to charge you a little bit of a fee and that kind of stuff. But if you did want to start getting your toe wet in that, it's very easy to do that in Citizenserve.
And this will cut down on window time at the front desk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So just in this example, we're charging a plan review fee at the beginning, and then before the permit gets issued, we're going to have to pay again. But some jurisdictions don't charge anything at the front because I don't want to deal with refunds. And some do just an application fee now, and then they charge before the permit gets issued. So you can do it any number of ways. I'm going to submit this payment right now, and let's not save that credit card. Go ahead.
I see convenience fee. What is that for?
This is just to show you that we can do it. We
Oh.
don't put any overhead on this, but if you needed to charge, like to pay for the credit card processor, you could
Oh,
add a fee.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking at this receipt page, but in the meantime, the system has started to generate emails to the applicant. When I hit the submit button, the system sent me an email that says your online submission has been received. So let me go into my inbox and we'll pull up that email. Any second now it will appear. Here we go. So this is the first one that's generated. This is an out-of-the-box template. It's got the blue bar and the Citizenserve logo. We can update this to match your formatting, your color scheme, your logo. All of this data comes out of the database. So this is informational text to the applicant. We see some jurisdictions that give their turnaround times or contact information here. This is data out of the database, and then this is a link to help the applicant get back to the portal. So we can modify this, but I would say just leave this link here because it's important and helpful to your constituents. So this is the first email that's generated. And then when we paid, we got a second email because as a contractor, I could have exited out of that payment screen and it would have submitted my application and then it would just have a balance due. Here we can see that payment amount and then it gives me this link so I can go back to the portal. So before we leave, let's take a look at what your applicants get to see after they've submitted their applications. This is the My Accounts tab. It gives us access to all of our online services, right? All 5 of them. If you didn't want to go live with 5, we would modify this screen to just show your constituents the electronic services that you are offering. And then they could go and view their requests. So I do demos, I have a billion requests. Your constituents are only going to see what they've submitted. So if it defaults to permits here and we're in the under review tab, here we can see our application. So let's click on this hyperlink. It's going to open it for us. And I know that you guys are a little bit, if I zoom in, hopefully that's easier for you to see. So we have tools on the left. We can edit at this point, but this is status driven. So if you didn't want them to be able to make a change right after they submitted, we can lock that down. We can make a payment here. Was there a question?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm hearing things, so just ignore me. We can request an inspection, although it's too early in the process. We're allowed to upload documents or leave a message, and this will send a message to the town. So we have some of that same database data, right, about our project listed here. And then this is an image from Google Images. And in the center of the tab or the center of the page, we have some tabs. This permit tab shows us the questions and answers on the permit project. The reviews tab is going to show the route that's been assigned. So let's scroll down here. Now, this is a configurable page, right? If you don't want to have a review route, you don't have to have one. If you want just one step, you can have just one step. This particular workflow has 7 steps. We can support both consecutive or concurrent reviews. And the way this one is set up is it goes to building for an intake review, like they do a completeness check. And when that gets approved, then that triggers the following 5 reviews in these different departments. And then when all 5 of those reviews are done, it'll trigger this last step back to the building department to see what needs to happen. Does the permit need to be resubmitted or is it ready to be approved? Or denied, right? So this is the review route. We're not going to go through all of these review steps today, but I'll show you the highlights of what we offer, and then hopefully that'll give you an idea. On the Documents tab, we're going to show all of the documents that have been uploaded or generated, and then as we generate some more on the staff side, they'll appear here. And finally, there's an Inspections tab, but again, it's too early in the process for that. So we're ready to jump out of the staff or out of the portal side. So we can take off our hard hat, right? We're going to jump in on the staff side, but I wonder if you have any questions for us before we jump.
Yeah, now I saw licensing, but does that basically work the same way with use and occupancies and annual rentals and things like that? And our business UNOs?
A UNO of
The use and occupancy.
Okay. Yes, it works a lot like the building permits. We'll go over that module in a little bit, but your applicants can apply online, they can pay online, it can have a workflow assigned, and then we'll show you through the permit process how we can generate the licenses or the permit card. So we'll get to see that.
Can you place a warning on there saying that this is just an application, this isn't permission to actually work?
Yeah, we've got this little warning here. Your permit is not issued until an issue date is displayed. This is just done through HTML, so we can modify this form.
Can you make that into like a 100 font and red?
Yes, this is just done through HTML. We don't do blinking though. That's a no-no. So we don't do any blinking red text.
I asked about the billboard.
Well, have a big capital letter,
Right.
like read.
Any other questions about the portal? These are good so far.
No.
These are great. Okay.
Yeah.
So So take off your imaginary hard hat, right? We're no longer going to be a constituent. We're going to be staff. So let's log in as Morgan. And this is staff side in Citizenserve. I'm going to refresh her page really quick because she's a test user. So she's just hanging out like a puppet. So let me pull her strings a little bit and we'll get our project logged in. Now, the dashboard is configurable. During implementation, we set up all the staff members' dashboards, but they can configure if they want to move their tools around. So at the top of her dashboard, she has these charts. These are called metrics, and we consider them a report. We write them with SQL, which gives us a lot of power over them. So you can see this one, the overdue permit reviews. It shows 36 in the title. And you can see in these different segments, these are all corresponding to these different departments, and it shows the count of what permits are overdue. So at a glance, it's very helpful information. But what's even better is that you can click on the department and it'll pull up a listing of the files that make up that metric. So these are all of the 4 in the building department that are overdue. So this again is helpful, but from this point, you can actually click to these permits, and because we're browser based, it's going to open it in a new tab. So you can get your work done in this tab or any other number of tabs. And when you save and close out your work, that initial tab with that metric is still going to be listed. So metrics are great, but if you look at this list and you think, man, this is only 70% of what I need, if I only had 2 more columns, I'd really be able to get my work done. All that is a request to Support Center. So let's show you how easy it is to request some support. There is a Support Center link. You click Submit New Request. It pulls up this quick form. You pick a category for your request. A metric would be something else. And then if you select this, you get to type in your request. Now, if you wanted to do something like update a report, when you pick reports, it says, do you want to make changes or do you want to create a new report? And if you say, I want to make changes to an existing report, then you get to pick the report that you're talking about. So it's really helpful. It helps guide you towards the answer. It'll give support the information they need and they can answer you even more quickly. So I'm not going to submit this. I just wanted to show you that this functionality is here and it's available to everybody. You know, every staff member that has a login to Citizenserve has this on the left-hand side. So you can request new metrics. You can request fields to be added to your metrics. We want to give you the tools you need to get your work done, right? So underneath the metrics or underneath the chart metrics, we have her task list. So the list is here, and these boxes up here are filter bars. So if you notice, there's blue. These are the ones that are due, and the red ones are the ones that are overdue. So if she was on vacation and she came back and she says, oh, I have to make up for all that stuff that I missed, she can click the 8 and it's going to filter her view to just show the 8 that are overdue. If she wanted to clear that filter, she just clicks the task by due date and it clears it all. Or she could click on the 2 that are due and look, here is where ours shows up. We'll come back to this in a minute. I want to show you some other features. These tiles right here with a white background and a colorful image here, an icon, these are report metrics. So this is going to be a map report. This is going to be a list report. Actually, I don't know why this has an arrow. This is a list report and this is a pie chart. I wonder if this is going to be a trend. Okay, I'm tempted to run this. These are all reports that this user can run right from their home page. Who's got the drill? Somebody running a drill?
I heard it said,
Oh, is it Ray? Are you running a drill over there? Ray's got some work happening in his office.
Putting in your last request.
What was that?
He's putting in your last request.
Exactly. He's drilling it in. So this is an example of a report. This is a cool graph here that shows the different types of payments over time. So they took a lot of payments in April by credit. So this is just a sample of a report that she can run right from her home page. You just add it as a report metric and you just add metrics from the left. She could also go to reports and she can click on her reports and standard reports. These are out of the box. So those are all available. And then these are single metrics, but I'm thinking that we have a lot that we should cover. So let's jump into the task list. And if other questions come up, we'll get to see some of these other features on the homepage. So On her task list, she's got a link to the task itself, right? This is her completeness check step. We can go directly to the application. It shows the due date, the address, and her description. We're going to jump to the task. But maybe before we do, let's look at this exclamation point. This is an alert. This is stop work order, permit required, call code enforcement. It shows that it's added to this property. It shows the address and the parcel number. It shows when it was created and by who. This is a way to get information out across all of your departments so that anybody that touches this property is going to see this alert. So it's a great way to get information out there. And these can be cleared right here by the user. Now, we'll also talk about some conditions in the system. You can put a standing condition. We'll get to see those in a minute. But let's go into this task for application intake, and we'll get to see what a permit project looks like, and we'll start working it. So this has opened our permit project. We know because it tells us at the top that it's a permit project. So we have the same Google image. It tells us where we are. This is our parent file number, our address, and our description. And then we have a series of tabs across the top. We're on the reviews tab. So Morgan is going to want to look at the application, right? She wants to see the questions that were answered, see what the applicant is asking for. She could click to the permits tab, but we've provided a shortcut here. This is called the More Information button. When we click it, it's going to open our permit in a new tab. So she can look at the permit application and then click back over to her review tab. She doesn't have to do as much clicking that way. So this is what our permit looks like on the staff side. This is the same permit that we filled out on the portal, but it looks differently, and we have some staff-only fields. So in the red bar here, this is all permit information. Ray, was that you? Okay. He's literally having windows installed in his house, about 17, so it's going to take days. So he's got people there working. That's what the drill was.
Yeah, that's a bit.
He's been doing this for like a year and a half, and he's had studs in the background. We keep telling him he needs to have the permit suspended behind him so people can see that he's permitted. He does have permits. So anyway, so this is the permit. The red bar shows permit information, right? The type and the subtype and our permit number, our applicant, the status, and the valuation. Now, she is doing this completeness check, so she's going to change the status to under review. And that's going to lock it down so that the applicant can't make any changes. Now, the blue section shows the fees and the payments, balance due, and the gray area shows the dates. So we only have an application date, but as we move through these milestones, we're going to see those additional dates pop in. Now, if I scroll down, you're going to see this application screen again. This is staff size, so it looks a little bit different, right? We have 2 columns of data. This table, of course, is just going to be 1 column. But we see our contacts that were entered. And here, she's going to notice that they've only uploaded a site plan and a landscape plan, but they're missing a plot plan and this cost affidavit, and they don't have this solid waste disposal form. Now, these are fields that we could make required, right? But in this demo, I need to show you some things. So we leave these not required so that I can communicate with the applicant this way. But we can definitely make them required on your applications. So now as we scroll down, we're going to see some fee information, and these fields are staff only. So we want to generate your fees automatically. We don't want to have to rely on your staff to do that, right? We'll just calculate them. But we know that there are going to be exceptions. So let's say that in this case, this permit didn't really need a plan review. I can use this checkbox to uncheck, and then when I recalculate, it's going to remove that highlighted plan review fee. That's one workaround we can give your staff so that they can control these fees. You can see that that's removed it. Now, we can also allow them to change how the permit gets calculated. Right now, the default is valuation, but they could choose estimated construction cost. Or if you have some other method that you use to calculate your fees, we can build that calculation in here for you and make that the default. I'm going to put this plan review check fee back on, but I want to show you what it's like to add a manual fee to the project. And this has a recalculate feature, so it's going to put that, that plan review fee back on. So this add fees button is going to pull up all of the fees that have been defined as manual. Here's that window. I have 2 manual fees and a credit. So this is just going to be a $5 MISH's miscellaneous fee. And when I save, it's going to add it here to the fee structure or my little fee table. And there we have it. Now, to take a payment, we see the payment that came through on the portal, right? If I wanted to see details about that, I could click the date and it shows me that it was a credit card and here's the reference number and here's the note and who paid it and that payment amount. To add a payment, we're just going to click the add payment button. And let's say that they sent, they gave you a check for $5. So we can list the check number. We can say it's to pay Mrs. Miscellaneous fee and that there is a $5 payment amount. So this is all work that she's doing while she's reviewing the application, but she's completed it, right? It's mostly complete. It's just missing a couple documents. So let's go ahead and save our change here. That is going to set our status. And it's going to take us back to the permits tab. This is a listing tab. So if we had an electrical permit or a plumbing permit or a mechanical, those could all be listed here under this same parent number. So we can link those files together and this is how they'd appear this way. We'll get to see one of those in planning and zoning. Now she'd go back to her review and she's going to add a comment about those missing documents. So I'm going to access the common comments book, which is this little book icon. We want to collect your commonly used comments and make them available in a book. This is the common comment related to documents missing. It's a little bit bigger. I can expand that out. It lists the documents that are part of this project and we can modify it, right? We've uploaded a site plan. We've uploaded a landscape plan. But we don't have that solid waste form or the plot plan or the cost affidavit. Now, I'm going to save this, but before I do that, I just want to show you all these other groups of comments that are available. She could switch into residential construction. She could add any other groups that she, or other comments from these other groups, or she could add a manual comment as well. I'm going to just leave it with the one comment that I've modified to make it very specific to this project. And you can see all of that information is listed here. Now that it's on the reviews tab, we can email it out to our applicant, or we can include it in comments sheets. So in this workflow, she needs to get this application into either a denied state or an approved and ready for the rest of the world to review it, right? So it's not ready because we're missing documents. She also is going to want to check these other documents. So before I move on, let's go into the markup tool and let's check to see that this site plan is really a site plan. So I've gone into our document markup tool. This is built into the project. It's browser based, so you don't have to load any Java or manage any widgets. It loads the document and then she can do things like pull in a received stamp. Oh, that was kind of green. Pull in the blue received stamp. We see the stamp, it's got the date, her name. She can add a comment here. Say Morgan reviewed. So I'm on the West Coast, so it's still morning over here for 10 more minutes. So we've just added a comment to this stamp. She can relocate this. I'm going to show you, we can take an arrow shape and point it at this line. We can format these items. So if I scroll down, it's going to give us outline thickness. We can make it a super thick arrow. We can change the color to maybe be purple. And let's imagine that this is a fence. We can change the name from arrow, which is the tool, to fence, and then it'll give our contractor some idea of what these comments refer to. So we can actually access the common comments book from our markup tool, and we can add fence comments to this shape. So I'll pick my fences and pools comments, and let's go ahead and add a couple comments. These are all Arizona comments, right? You have to, if you have a pool, you have to have a fence. That's why they're linked together. And now we see this shape on the file, and we can see that little red indicator indicates that there are questions. So I'm going to exit out. Now, this is an integrated tool. So Morgan would go through the rest of these documents, make her markups where she needs to. And when she's done, she hits the close button. All of the comments that we've entered are now available on her review comments tab. So that's why it's integrated. It'll pull those comments out, and now they can be emailed out to customers or included in comment sheets. So she does need to notify the applicant that they're missing some information. So I'm going to use the email icon, and I'm going to select the email template that I want to send her. And we've got incomplete application listed. Now in the to field, I'm going to select the applicant, but this blue plus sign, I guess it's a white plus sign in a blue circle. It shows us everybody that's on the application, our external context, this is our address book. And then users in gray are the staff members that are part of the review process. So I'll show you the preview so you can see what this looks like. Similar blue bar at the top, some database fields, and then our comments are all pulled in because that's how the template was built. I can edit this on the fly if I needed to, but I'm just going to send this off. And that's going to notify the applicant that they need to go to the portal and upload their documents. Now, we could go and do that, but we're time constrained. So I am going to imagine that the applicant has gone and uploaded the documents. That action in itself is going to trigger notification to Morgan's task list. She'll get a task. It'll appear under her activities tab on this project. It'll say online document uploaded. She can go verify those documents, and then she can complete this activity. So if we wanted to, we could change the status and say corrected. We could make a note in here if we wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it blank. I'm going to add a completion date, and we'll update the status to approved. So we're imagining that it's ready because I want to show you how we can trigger the next set of reviews. So when I click save, it's going to complete this application intake activity. And because it's in an approved status, it's going to trigger the next 5 reviews. So it's reused our window here. And now instead of looking at that review activity, we're looking at the whole review route. And we can see the status of our task is now approved, and the date, the completion date appears. But we can also see that the next 5 reviews have been triggered. So we've just gone through a review process. We've used the markup tool. I'm about to jump into another user, but I wonder if you have questions about what you've seen so far.
No. No.
I have a question regarding the assigned to. So the people that are listed that are a part of the review process, do they also, these people, we're assuming, or I'm assuming that these people have accounts with Citizenserve.
That's correct.
Okay.
And now these tasks are all sitting on their task lists. So we're going to switch users as Liam, unless, are there any other questions?
No.
So we're going to log in as Liam. We're going to refresh his page. Now he's got a couple more tasks here. So his task list looks a little bit different, or his dashboard does, right? He doesn't have metrics at the top. He has a calendar feature here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you notice, he has 2 tasks that are related to our project. So you can split your tasks up and assign them to the same people. You can do them at different times. You know, we have lots of flexibility with how we assign work in the workflow. We're going to start with this application review activity. And it's going to look just like Morgan's does, right? Same default fields, same ellipses here so that he can open up the application and take a look at what he cares about. In his case, he wants to know about the structures, right? There's a residential 1 and 2 family, and then a storage unit. And he's got the square footage here. So back on the reviews tab, he'll go into that markup tool and he'll look at that site plan document. Now, Morgan just did her markup, and she's listed here on the left-hand side as a reviewer. But every reviewer gets their own layer to make comments in. So by default, Liam is just going to see his layer unless he checks her name off by the reviewers list. And then he can see that she's added a stamp and that she's added an arrow. And if he wants to look at her comments, he can either click on the shape or he can click at the top of the document and see all of the comments that have been added. If you notice, these are not editable by Liam because they're in Morgan's layer. So it's secure that way. Every user just gets to be in their own layer. So he can see what she's done and he can uncheck her name. And then let's do something like, let's calculate the square footage of the house. I'm going to calibrate this document by drawing a line that's stated. Now you'd want to do this from a scale diagram, but this document doesn't have that. So I'm going to type in the feet, and that has calibrated our distances. And now I can select the area tool or any other measurement tool. And I'm just going to click into the corners, kind of sloppy. You'd be slower and neater, right? This is not quite accurate, but this is telling us that this house, let's make it larger so you can really see. It's calculated out that the square footage is really 3,896 square feet. This is really going to change the valuation calculation. So he's going to make a note, and he's going to make this note a condition. Question?
We can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
No.
I can hear you. Testing,
We
testing.
missed everything you said. You zoomed out on us.
Oh, no kidding. Well, I
After
promise I was
it
talking.
came up 3896,
Okay.
3 square feet, we lost.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, we
coming
couldn't
across
hear
a little
anything you
choppy
said.
too. So can you hear me right now?
He's probably, the connection is set to copy.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a cruddy connection. So what I was saying is that this calculation is larger than the applicant entered for square footage. So this is going to affect the valuation calculation. So he's going to make a note of that. Can you hear me right now? In the conference room? Can you hear me in the conference room?
No.
You're in and out.
Shoot.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the internet is bad.
Now we can, yeah.
I can see it going in and out on your, Miss B. I can hear it going in and out.
So we are
Okay.
recording this. You can refer back to this if you have questions about the process. I'm thinking that we should probably just keep forging ahead unless you have different ideas, Nicole.
That's fine.
No, yeah. Yep, let's keep going.
We'll keep
Yeah.
going. So what Liam is doing right now is he's putting a note in the system that says this is what the square footage should be, 3896, and he's making it as a condition. So when I save this, and I'm going to close out of this document, we'll exit out. This is going to add a red hand to our project. He could go through, again, all these other documents and make his changes. It's just pulled in the one comment that we did make. And then if I save this little comment, because of that status of condition, here we see the red hand. This is a standing condition that's going to be visible to all staff. It shows that that square footage should be 3896. It was set by Liam, and he can clear this in the review process. But this is going to be visible throughout the site, and that lets people know that, hey, this is a problem and it needs to be addressed. This could be, a condition before you issue the permit, or a condition of approval, or before your certificate of occupancy. There's lots of options here. So that's a condition. So he's finished his review, and based on what he's seeing, he's going to say that this is resubmittal required because he wants those changes made to the square footage. I'm going to add a completion date, and when I save, it's going to save that review activity, and it's going to update our workflow. So now we have 2 completed. Now, I want to show you this next activity because if your reviewers have to fill out a checklist, we can build the checklist on the activity form. So this required inspections activity literally has a checklist. But if you need to track dates sent or emails sent, or if you need to make notes about something, we can just build those fields for you on an activity form like this, and your reviewers can complete it. Now, what Liam is supposed to do is check off all these boxes. These are going to print out on the permit card as the required inspections. And this is just, some jurisdictions are like, we don't do that. You don't have to. This is just an example of how the system can work. So he's going to say that this one's complete. And when we save, it's going to update our workflow again. And then I really feel like I'm pounding this in, right? This is how our review process works. So are there questions about this, about what the review process can do before we go through and jump through some hoops and issue our permit?
No,
No.
we're fine.
So I'm going to ask you to imagine, right? Like this is a whole workflow route. You can see that the route itself has a status of under review. If all of these other reviewers had completed their review activities, it would trigger this last activity to Morgan Katz, and she would look at all of the different reviews and determine what needs to happen next. In this case, because Liam is asking for resubmittal, she would send the permit back for the applicant to change that square footage on. In this case, I'm going to mimic what that would look like because we're not going to go complete all those activities. I'm going to select resubmittal required on the route, and we'll give it a completion date of today. And when I hit the save button, it's going to prompt me to complete the rest of these activities. I'm going to say yes, it's going to do it automatically for me. So we've just mimicked sending the route back to resubmittal required, and it's going to close this route for us, and it'll show it to us on a listing screen. Still going to be the reviews tab. It's just the third way you get to view it. So now we see this review route, got a little less detail, right? We're not seeing that those fields at the top, but this is a listing. So Morgan could put the permit back in a resubmittal state. She could do things like put together a comment sheet and send it out to the applicant listing all of the reviewers' changes that are needed. The system has automatically sent emails to the applicant letting them know when each of those tasks has been completed. So we can work with you to configure the system to work the way that makes sense for, the Darby Township. But when that application gets sent back for resubmittal, when that new version comes through, Morgan will get notified on her task list and she can add a new route. So I'm going to go to the add button and we'll hit the route and we'll get to pick one of the 3 routes that are available. We can build as many routes as you need. In this case, it's the OTC building permit review, and I can rename it. So we'll call it building permit re-review. Now, with these checkboxes, I can uncheck any of the activities that aren't needed. So let's say it was just Liam that needed to do that re-review. I'm just going to leave application review checked and then Morgan's review complete. And when I save, it's going to add this new review route. So you get to see it on our reviews list. Here we have 2. And again, if we collapse them under these collapsible headers, you can see the name of the route, the permit that it's on, and then the status. So we're imagining, right, that all of these reviews have come through. We're going to imagine that this re-review is complete. So I've opened up the route and I'm going to change the whole status of the route to approved, and I'll give it a completion date of today. And when I save, it's going to update the status here. It's just going to close things down, take things off people's task list so I don't have to do it later. Now let's go over to the permit. So we're imagining that it's approved. So we can change the status to approved. But before I do that, we have this condition that's set on this permit that's about the square footage. And the square footage can change our valuation. So I'm going to open this up because, of course, I can't remember that calculation. 3896. We're just going to go and update the permit, which Liam has had the rights to do the whole time. You get to decide how your workflow should go. I am going to upload or update the square footage to 3896, and then I'm going to change it to approved. Now, when I hit the save button, it's going to update this balance to 70. It's 7260 right now. It's going to update it even more. There's going to be a larger balance due, and it's going to trigger notification to the applicant. So here we can see now our balance due is $10,193. So the email that the system sent out says your permit has been approved. You owe us money. Please go to the portal and pay, and then we'll issue your permit. So let's see if that has come through yet. We'll look on the documents tab, but it hasn't quite hit my inbox yet. In fact, oh, there it is. So the default email says your permit has been approved. It can be issued after final fees are paid. You owe this balance. You can pay fees through the portal. Here's the project, and then here's the link so that you can go and pay. The next thing I want to show you is what we can do to help your staff make the right decision at the right time. But first, let's clear this condition. We'll say that this was corrected. When we update that, it's going to make that hand disappear because we just updated the square footage, right? So if you have a staff member that comes to this approved permit and they don't know what they're doing, right? If they're guessing, they're trying to be helpful, but they haven't been trained yet, they can go and they can try to issue that permit. You say it's approved. I don't have to wait anymore. I'm going to click generate the permit card. And when I click that button, I get a warning message that pops up. It says there's a balance due on this permit. This is a warning because I can bypass this. It's the thing, are you sure you want to do this? If I say yes, it will allow me to issue that permit card. But this could also be set up as a stop. And this is an example of a system condition. We can write them throughout the system. We have about 18 different actions that you can take that would trigger a condition. And that would be a way for the system to check for any conditions that you need us to check for. And then it can throw up either a warning or a stop. And it's just a powerful way to help your staff make the right decision at the right point in time. So I am not going to issue this permit yet. Let's take a payment. We can zero out the balance on this. So I click the payment option. Let's say that this is a check. We can give the reference number and we'll go ahead and put in that $10,193.51. So when we add this payment, it's going to zero out our balance. And we have nothing due. And then up at the top of the form, I can change the status to issued. Now, notice when we approved, it gave us a date. When we issued, it gave us the issue and the expiration date. And now when I go and I issue that permit card, now it's going to generate without that condition popping up. So here is a sample building permit. It has the town logo, this QR code. These are all of the inspection types that we listed off. If you want to have your conditions of approval listed here, we can do that as well. This is all done through HTML. So I'm going to save this, and it's going to take us to our Documents tab because we just generated a document. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit to get rid of this word wrap. It gets super tiny, but this list is all of the documents that have been uploaded or generated. So we started with the ones at the bottom, and then a bunch of system generated emails, and then our permit card. So you get full history of all those documents on the project. But now I want to take you out to the portal so that you can see what the applicant gets to see. But while I log out and log back in, do you have any questions about issuing the permit or system conditions or anything else that we've seen?
Everything was just so, I don't have no questions. It's just, just to get used to it. You know what I mean? I have to, how they say practice makes perfect.
Right.
To do it over and over again.
Well, plus you're watching me do it. Once you do it, it's going to be, it's
Yeah.
way more hands-on. Yeah. All right. So we're back on the portal. So imagine your hard hat's back on, right? You're acting as the applicant here, the constituent. We're now on the issued tab, and now we can see here's our Darby Township project. So let's open this up, and now we get to see what the applicant has gotten to see throughout the whole process. So on the reviews tab, we're going to get to see those updates from all of these different activities, right? They're all completed. They all have their statuses set. And these were all pending, and we completed them automatically, so it didn't update their status. But if you notice, we have some links here. So any staff member that writes a comment, it's going to create a link on the portal so that the applicant can go see what those comments are. It's a great way to be transparent. So if we go to the Documents tab, again, we're going to see the documents that are included. Note, we're excluding the system generated emails. We can exclude things by document type. So we figure those are already in their inbox. Now, there's also a link here under the site plan. So when I click View Comments here, it's going to open up our markup of that document. Gives all the comments on the left, and here we see our shape. So if I highlight received, it's going to show the received comment. If I highlight the square footage or the house, it's going to show that here. Again, it's a way to be transparent with your constituents. Now, our last tab is the Inspections tab, and now it's time. Like, let's imagine that we're ready for our first inspection. We're going to click the Request an Inspection link on this project. We're logged in as the applicant, so we're on our project. We're just going to pick the request type that we want. This is another place for conditions, right? If we picked final, we'd want it to reject this request, right? Because they don't have all the required inspections in. I'm going to pick today as the desired date, but this is just a form, right? So this preferred inspection time range is an option. If you want it AM, PM, if you want it a specific hour, or if you want to leave it off altogether, this is a request. So let's pick the end of the day here, and then I'll put in a little signature with my mouse, little initial, and now we can submit this. And it tells us that our inspection has been requested, and it's going to show us this inspection is listed now on the portal. So we are going to jump back to staff side. Liam does our inspections. So we're going to go, maybe I'll show you the inspections tab here. We requested this inspection on our activity, and it's listed here on the inspections tab, but it hasn't been assigned out. So in Buena Vista, they route all of the requests to the department queue. It's called the unassigned workflow. And Liam accesses that through this metric. Oh, it's also a listing. So he has the listing here, and he has a single metric here for unassigned inspection. So he can access it a number of different ways. But the unassigned task queue is a great tool because anybody in the department that has access to this is going to be able to check off their tasks. So let's see. This is hours for B22. 04. When I check the box, it's going to assign it to Liam. I could assign it to anybody else out in the department, or I can click the button, and this is going to show anybody's calendar for the day. So we can see he's got a footing and a foundation inspection today. These are from previous demos, or from previous projects that I was working on. So you can assign this out by looking at the calendar as well. We're just going to claim it by saving this file, and that's going to add the activity to our calendar. So when we scroll up, it's showing the day of the week. Is today Tuesday? right? It's Tuesday. It hasn't refreshed the header yet, but when I clicked on the filter link, it's showing us all 3 activities. And here we can see our inspection. So the next thing for us to do is to get in the truck and to go out on site, and let's do this inspection remotely. This is an iPad Pro, but we are device and browser independent. So if you wanted to take an Android device out, a tablet, or your Windows laptop, it would work the same way because this isn't an app, it's just a browser. So we're going to refresh our browser. And it's showing us today's activities. So I can click the very top footing activity, and that's going to open up the project for us on the inspections tab. So to complete this activity or this inspection, he's going to open up the common comments book and he's going to start making notes, right? He's going to walk the site and he's going to check off all of the comments that apply to this particular inspection. And if he gets to the bottom and he has more to say, he just clicks add comment. Now, we want to use all of the tools available to us. So when I click in the comment field, I could tap out my comment here, but it's much faster if I do this. This is a voice to text comment from Liam's iPad.
Cool.
So thank you, iPad, for voice to text, right? So we can add all of these comments by clicking save. It's going to put the comments down here under our inspection comments. Now, the other piece of inspections is photographic evidence, right? So up at the top, I'm going to attach a document since I'm not actually at a footing inspection. I'm going to hit select files. We can actually take a photo. I'm going to take a photo so you can see what it looks like. We can take a photo on site. Look, there's my computer. So exciting. This is where I really am. So you can take a photo and upload that to the site, but let's get a footing photo in here. So let's go pick one from my photo library. There is our footing. We'll leave the snakes, take the footing. So we've just taken a photo and we've uploaded a photo from our computer. Now we're ready to generate our inspection report, but let's give it a status and let's give it a completion date so that can be included in the report. So we'll complete it today and we'll give it a status of not ready. And then I'm going to go up to the email and it's going to allow me to select my inspection report template. If you want these printed out as a letter, we can build them for you as a letter. You can print them out on a Bluetooth printer and post them on the site. We can do it both ways, have you a letter template and an email template. I'm going to pick my inspection report. We'll address it to the applicant and let's add those attachments. Here we can see the photograph and the footing, so we'll attach those. And now we're ready to send that inspection report. So I'm going to send that off. It's going to send it off to me because I'm the applicant too. And now the last thing we probably want to do for this inspection is to schedule a follow-up, right? This one's not completed, or it's not approved. So we're going to hit that calendar icon at the top. It's creating a follow-up. It's going to do the same type of activity, a same footing. It's going to keep it assigned to Liam. All we need to do is add a date. So let's give him a week. And we can give it a status of scheduled. And now when we save this, it's going to close this inspection with this status, and we can see our footing inspection that's completed down at the bottom as well. So let's go ahead and let's head back to the office. Got to commute back, right? Let's see if I can get that inspection report. So here is that sample inspection report. It has our 2 attachments. It has those comments that are listed here. Now, do you have any questions about what you've seen with the inspection process?
It's a lot to take in, I'll tell you that. Gee.
This system is very capable, and I know that we're going at a fast pace, so we're happy to demo this again, and we do invite you to go and visit our site because there's lots of additional recorded demos there if you wanted to see it again. We'll also provide this copy to you.
I think that would
So-
be helpful.
What was that?
I think that would be helpful. Then look at some more demos, demonstrations.
Yeah. There's the demos link at the top for shorter ones, and then the live demos tab has a bunch of other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So the last piece of this, like if we go back to our permit project and I refresh it, it's going to bring in those 2 inspections. Now, hopefully you can see that on this form, you're going to show all of your inspection activity. And when it's finally time for you to issue the certificate of occupancy, you'll have your full inspection history here. All you need to do to issue that certificate is to open up the permit and generate that document. So we'll open up the permit, and I'm going to change the status to finaled. It's going to add the close date here. And then when we generate our certificate of occupancy, that's going to complete our whole permit process. And again, this is just the template that's built in the system. This is done through HTML, so we can make it look however you want. We'll copy your current form. And we'll save this. It's going to take us back to the Documents tab. So we've just gone through the whole permit, right? From soup to nuts. We applied for it online. We paid for a part of it online. We did the review process. We issued it. We did an online inspection, and then we approved it. It was the fastest permit process in the history of any permit, right? Your process can include whatever steps you need it to, right? We'll build your own review route. We'll build up your applications to include the data that you need. The nice thing is we're going to talk about our other modules here. They all include this same functionality. So we're going to switch gears and talk about planning and zoning. The planning and zoning module uses a permit project as a basis, but we know planning and zoning has a little bit different needs. So I'm going to take you out to another environment. Let's zoom in here. We're going to look at this real life project on our test environment. So this is a real customer site, but it's not in production. It's a copy of their production site. So this is the Canyon Creek Commercial Center. It's a 9-phase construction project, and it includes a final plat and a general commercial, like a site plan. So here we see in our listing file, these are those 2 permit applications that are tied to this project. We didn't see that on the building side because we didn't have time to add an electrical permit or mechanical, but they could all have listings like this. So I want to take you to the reviews tab and show you, well, actually, we'll start on the permit itself. I've opened the tabs in my browser to show this information because it's a little bit slow in my test environment. If I've zoomed in, this is showcasing that our staff site is also written with HTML responsive design. We still have our home menu. It's just up here. It's just been shrunk down so that we can look at the permit itself. So here's that same header information. Here's that work description for that Canyon Creek phase, but then their application looks different, right? This is still a permit project, but these are all custom fields. So they are asking questions of the developer about the application, drinking water meter size. They list areas for contacts. And then here are a bunch of submittal documents, right? They have this PDF file of plat, and they were able to upload a bunch of these documents. If we scroll down, we've got a couple more questions, and then there's their fee structure. So the application itself is pretty simple, but the review process for a 9-phase project is going to be much more complicated. So I've collapsed these. Each of these gray bars is an example of a review route, right? It's just been collapsed. And there are 10 of these because they did 9 reviews and a final site plan. Maybe there's only 9. There's a lot. So this site plan review includes all of these activity types. These were defined for this environment, right? We can configure your workflow to include the steps that you need. And one of the steps we know that you need to track are your meetings. So I want to point out this activity is the Development Review Committee meeting. It happened on 8/24 in 2016. They have this activity built into the workflow so that they can make sure to get this project assigned to the next meeting so they make sure they discuss it. So I've opened up that review activity or that meeting in this window. So this is our same Development Review Committee meeting. It happened on 8/24. When these meetings happen, they just take the minutes right here in the notes field of the activity. When it's in the system like this, we can pull that data out and create your agendas or your minutes from our database. Now, they don't do that here, but I want to show you how they are using this system. And then I'm going to take you to another site and show you some agendas in minutes that have been generated. I've filtered their documents tab to just show emails. It shows all of these red line memos. There's a couple approval emails here. They're tracking bonds and fees. They have informal review comments. They're pulling all of this data out of the system and emailing it out as part of their review process. So I've opened up a couple of these letters. This is informal review comments from May 19th of 2016, and it includes reviewer comments from Corey Pearson Engineering. So these are all of those notes, and this is just his informal review. Now, this letter is the development application approval with conditions. So it says you've been approved, but these are the conditions, and then it has these 3 conditions. So they are able to enter this in their review activities and pull that data out into these emails and notifications to their developers. Now, I did talk about how we can generate your minutes and your agendas. This is Barefoot Bay, Florida, and they're a customer. They have an architectural review control committee, and they use Citizenserve to track their planning and zoning. So this meeting happened on January 4th. And they post their agenda packets right online. So here's their header, and all of these projects are pulled out of Citizenserve. So report writing is included in your subscription. This is an example of a report. We've just gone through the permit process on the building side in great detail. All of those functions still apply to the planning and zoning side. So you asked for a brief review of planning and zoning, and there it was, like in 3 minutes. Do you have any questions about planning and zoning?
No.
So we also have like business licenses and rental licenses to talk about, plus code enforcement. Should we lean in one direction or the other?
Code enforcement.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard that with a resounding
Rental.
yes.
Licenses. That's Donna.
Is Bob back yet?
No.
No.
Okay, if we could go to the UNO, since Ms. B is here, the UNO licensing. So when you talk about, when I looked at your overview, it says licensing.
Mhm.
Is that the same? Are we talking about the same thing, business licenses?
And that's a use and occupancy license that you
Mhm.
issue to your businesses so they can operate in town.
Businesses, right? Also residential. For people that are renting out their home, their property.
Oh, okay, right. So do you do an inspection as part of that process?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we have a licensing module, and all of that would fall under that umbrella. In our demo environment, we don't have, actually, we do have a couple of rental options, but do you do short-term rentals, or do you do like long-term?
No, they're all long-term rentals. At
So
least
in-
they have to apply annually.
Right, okay. So what I have built in my system is a vacation rental license, but I want to take you out to another environment to show you how they've done they call them rental registrations. So we can name them whatever you need to call them. But I thought I would just pull up a business license so you could see the options here. I'll just put test in there. Name, address. So this looks a lot like a permit, right? We have to enter in the application type and the subtype and enter the name. We can link it to another business application if we need, and then we set the address, and then our application displays. So this is how a business license is set up, and they're asking for primary type. So this would be for your use and occupancy. But this, again, is a custom form. So we would just take whatever application you're using right now and build that into the system. So you wouldn't have to collect an NAICS code if you didn't want one. Right, but it's the same features and functionalities that I just showed you on that permit. But why don't I go out and show you, sorry, I have a loud beep right here. Let me show you the environment that I've already pulled up. I think this is the one. So this is a sample license in Urbana, Illinois. And This is an example of a rental property registration. Their subtypes are private certified housing and rental property. So their setup is different than Buena Vista because every customer's setup is going to be different. So they're tracking unit information on the application form. They want to know how many single family houses or number of duplexes or number of apartment buildings or units or rented mobile homes. And then they collect ownership information. And then they have these office fields only, which is listing the date of their last systematic inspection. If we scroll down, they've got a couple of other disclaimers, and then they're charging fees for each of these renewals. So if we click over to their inspections tab, they've done a systemic inspection on 2021. Oh, sorry, systemic. That makes it sound like a disease. It's a systematic inspection. And I've opened up one of these in the next tab. So I've shown you the building inspection where we use the common comments to apply things. We can also build this inspection form as a checklist. In this case, they do have 2 custom fields. They want to collect the signature of the responsible person. They didn't do that in this case. And then they give it an overall grade. And in this case, the status is fail. So they generate notification out and then they schedule the follow-up. And if we look at the follow-up inspection, it hasn't been completed yet, right? Because it's in the future. But if we go look at those documents, then we'll see the email that was sent out for that systemic inspection. So that was a mass merge. It says mass merge. That means it was generated in bulk. So they go out and they do, their inspections for the day, and then at the end of the night or at the end of the week, they generate notice to all of the property owners that were inspected in that time period, and then they all get generated automatically. So let's take a look at what this one looks like. This is their template that they use. And it says, as the owner manager, we request that you contact this office within 2 weeks. This is their process. So we would build your templates to give whatever information you wanted your business owners to have. Now, they track this work through metrics. So if we go back to the home page, I think that they have a couple metrics that they use. So this is the rental registration. The inspection notice is sent. You can see that they have 28 in this bucket, and then they track it with these different metric categories. So the first notice sent and the inspection scheduled, there are 24 of those. And if we click this link, we get to see all of those files that are included in this. And it shows the application, expiration, registration, and then inspection status, and then the completion date for that, which is so far in the past, it makes me think they've imported some data. But again, this is a metric, so you get to tell us what information you want to display in the form. And remember, you can access all of those files through these links. So the licensing section differs from permits because in our world, a permit is something that has an end date, right? It gets finalized out and it closes because the work's done and it goes away. But a license is something that renews every year. So in our licensing process, we need a method to manage that renewal. And part of it is through metrics where you get to see the work that needs to be done. But to get stuff to appear on the metric, we handle that through a renewal report, and it's either going to be a letter to your constituents or an email to your constituents. So I want to take you back into my test environment, my demo environment, and this is Derek. He does licensing. I'm going to take you to his report section because the renewal reports are something that we would write for you specifically. They're not a standard report. So note, he has a business license renewal as a letter and then an email business license renewal. So he has both options. If you are 100% paperless, you don't need the letter option. But if you have half and half, your constituents, some do use emails and some don't, we would write you both reports so you could cover your bases both ways. The goal is to drive your constituents to the portal to do their renewals, right? So that you can stop processing the paperwork and collecting payments over the counter. Just do it online. I'm going to show you an example of this letter. I haven't done my renewals for 2021 yet, so you get to see the preview of this. No, we give you the preview option so you can see who's in your bucket of renewals. Make sure you've got the right group of people. This is a sample renewal letter. This Town of Buena Vista logo is going to give you the top of the form. And this is just a sample. Like, they have these closed options, so your business owners fill it out. If they're not closing, they calculate their fees due based on FTE over here and hours over here. But that we've got this text down at the bottom that says renew your license online by going to this link and logging in to the portal. We can also send out users account names so that they get one step closer to the system. We could say, here's your account name. You can reset your password so you can get into the system. Now, we can also send this notice out without the option to fill things out by hand. So that way you force your users to go to the portal and do that renewal. But this report includes, however many users, right? Here's one for ZZZ Construction. This next one is for Smith Plumbing. All of these are included in that 2021 renewal. When you figured you've got a good listing here, you run it in regular mode. And what that process does is it resets any fields you want your business owners to complete during the renewal process. It also locks down fields that you don't want them to change during the process, so that when they go to the portal, they can fill out those required fields and pay their fees online. And then it sends you the notification and you can issue the certificate and process the renewal. Now, I want to show you this business license as an email. Well, again, do it for 2021. And when we run this, it's going to just be an email. And this one has 39 recipients, and it says messages not sent. So it's telling you this is just in preview mode. And this is what that email would look like. It's much simpler, right? It just says, here's your business, go to the portal and renew. So when the business owner gets this notification, they can click the link and go through that renewal process. So this is what generates that bucket of users that appears in the portal, in that metric. And when the business owners click this link and fill out their application, that's going to trigger a status change on their license. So let's go back to the home page and let's look at that license, that renewal metric. So the renewal status here, it shows 58 total. 47 renewal notices have been sent. That means we either kicked off an email notification or that letter generator, and it sent the notices to the business owners. 10 of them are complete, and then one of them has been submitted by the business owner. So when we click here, we see that Jim's Bar and Grill. This means it's been submitted by the business owner. They've paid their fees. In fact, there's a $200 balance due. For some reason. This is an old license, but I wanted to show you this because it looks just like a permit, right? The same header information, but the red area is going to list the licensing information. And with that, there is now a renewal status. So the renewal has been submitted. If we click on the ellipses, it's going to show us all of the renewal information about this file. So if there were a period start date, we set that up in our configuration window, which I should pull up for you so you can see how we do that. Let me see if I can get that. The status is renewal submitted. We have these 3 statuses. We saw those in the metric. We have the dates for when we sent the renewal. Holy cow, it was back in 2019. The renewal was submitted by Jim for his bar and grill in 2019, right, in May. And we haven't completed this renewal yet. So the way that we would complete it is to go and to issue this license. So we would just go up to the top and generate this report. It would update our expiration dates, and then it would update our metric as well. So I wanted to log in as a system user to show you how we configure these licenses. So I've just logged in as our system user. I think this is somebody's grandkid's drawing as an image. So let's go into administration. Note, Derek has administration options, but business license renewals isn't something that you want all of your users to access. So I'm going to take you to the business licensing department, and we will look at your license types. And we'll pick for our business license. This is how the license itself is configured. So you get portal options, right? This is how we set them up in the system. These are all the different subtypes, how the fees are listed. Here's the fee structure. But we also have a renewal configuration for every license type. So you don't have to be on the same calendar. So if there was a last day for a renewal set here, we would have seen that in the status window, but they don't set it up that way in Buena Vista. We're not automatically renewing these renewals. Redundant, sorry. So they manually do it. That's why this is set to never. We're resetting the fees on the final run only, but you have options for when you reset those fees. So all of these are the configuration options that will drive your renewal process, or that drives this renewal process. And here is the field that resets those custom fields on the application. So if we click this ellipses, this is going to list all the fields that your business owner needs to fill back in during the renewal process. And you get to dictate what those fields are, right? You'll tell us what you need, and we can set it up for you that way. So do you have questions about our process doing these renewals?
We'll have to probably look at it again.
And again,
Yeah, because there's a few questions, but, because I know you were showing us the business side, and we basically have like residential rentals. You know, we have business rentals, but
the majority is
yeah,
residential.
for license and inspections, residential. And once the application and payment is received, our code enforcement goes out and inspects those properties. And if they don't pass, then they have to fix whatever infractions there are, and then they have to go back out and re-inspect. Once everything is re-inspected and it passed, then they will be issued a license. But what we want is for our use and occupancy and our residential rentals to tie into our building, electrical and plumbing permits department, so that we will know whether they pull permits to get
On the
work.
work that they had done. Yep,
So
that makes sense.
you don't have to go through it today, but we'll go back and look at it, and then maybe we can email you questions.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to show you again, if we're back in Urbana, we did look at this duplex rental registration. It's on a license project, but we can call it whatever you want. So if you want it to be a U of O?
UNO.
UNO, use and occupancy, right? We can call it that. Or you could have that as a subtype if it's part of a rental. You know, we have lots of ways to set it up. But this is an example of a residential. It's just a duplex. So it could be single family or, well, and this is their build, right? This is, our process is to work with you in an iterative way. So if you decided to go with Citizenserve, we would have you gather all of your information, all of your applications, the rental renewal letters that you already send out, and then we would assign an engagement manager to your project, and they would meet with you weekly to show you what they built the last week. They'd walk through it with you in a weekly meeting, and then they'd want to send you off right after that meeting to test it out in the system. Right, to test out the renewal or the rental registration that they just set up for you, or you just said it, UO.
Yeah, it's fine. We got you.
You know what I'm talking about. And I keep thinking we have a University of Oregon over here, so I'm like U of O. That's not the same
Right.
thing. But your engagement manager will build this stuff for you and show it to you, and then you'll get hands-on in the system, and that way you'll uncover things that you didn't figure out on paper, right? That you need to get changed in the system. And if you can get that feedback to your engagement manager that day, then by the next week's engagement meeting, those changes can already be in the system. And then we'll iterate over the process to make sure that the system is workable for you and it's what you want. We don't force you to go live. We work with you until you're ready to go live. And then it's a system that you want.
Okay. Awesome.
So we have about 20 minutes left, but I don't want to overwhelm you with another module because we've gone through permitting and planning and licensing.
Yeah.
I'm
can we
happy
touch-
to show you.
Can we touch on property maintenance though? Because that's, these are the three areas that are of most importance to us.
And when you
So-
say property maintenance, are you talking about code
Code
enforcement or you?
enforcement. Yep, code enforcement.
So we offer code enforcement complaints through the portal. So your constituents can request those or can submit those requests. Oh gosh. Sorry, they can submit those complaints through the portal. If you go to the homepage, you'll find the services here, or you can also find this on the My Accounts tab. So they have them in multiple places in the system. I'm going to show you both of these forms because we build custom forms, and this particular complaint form is pretty brief. So let's say that this complaint is trash left in
Okay, so
alley.
let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
We want to, how do we want to tie the complaints in? Not necessarily residential complaints. We want
Oh,
to
you want these to be township generated.
correct. So if
Okay.
we have our code enforcement officers that are going out and they are seeing your high grass or things of that nature, generating a notice,
Mhm.
24-hour, 48-hour notice, and then going back to follow up on that. Yes, I know that the customer or residential component is going to come with it automatically. We want to see the other side, our side.
All right, so we've logged in as Lucas. He's our code guy. He has a dashboard, right? So he can manage his work through a task list. He can manage it through a calendar. He can manage it through metrics if he wants. These are optional trend metrics. But if he logs in, or if he's driving around the streets, right, and he notices tall grass and weeds, he can create the file. Now, a cool thing that he can do if he's on a tablet is he could click this camera icon at the top of his screen. Fortunately, this is like going to take a picture of my face. So let's see if I can get this. Oh, so the funny thing is, there we go. So this is actually going to work better on my tablet. Let's see if I can show this again. It's like a bomb. Sorry, I have a device here that just keeps beeping and beeping. So we're going to log in as Lucas here, who is our code enforcement guy.
Mm-mm.
So if he's driving in his car, right, or driving in his vehicle and he sees something that needs to be reported, he can start by taking a picture. So if I take a picture, of my computer, I'm located up in Washington State. So if I say use this photo, it's going to put my GPS coordinates on it and it's giving you my address at the top of the screen. So when I hit save and I save it to the town of Buena Vista, which is located in California, it's going to have some cognitive dissonance here. But you'd be doing this in your town or the township. So it's going to give you a Darby Township address and it's going to locate you in your map appropriately. With this photo, I can choose to either add it to an existing file, like a code case, or I can say I want to create a new file on the spot. So when I click new file, it says, what's the file type? And I say, it's a code case. Here we define any file types that you needed. So if it were a license issue, like maybe a vacation rental issue, I could pick license or I could pick permit project. I'm going to hit save here and that's going to generate the file for me. So it's opened up my form, and remember in our system, the red fields are required. So in this complaint, I could do something like this: tall grass and weeds. And it's going to give my address. I want to give you a I'm going to change the address because I want it to be in Buena Vista. Wow. Let's try with my keypad here. So imagine that this defaults to Darby Township address and that you don't have to manually do this. When I search, it's going to pull in that address information. If there were multiple addresses, this is how you could pick them from the staff side. It's just giving me one listing because there's only 141 Baker. So it pulls in that information into the file. And if you notice in the central blue square, that ownership information came from the parcel data. So we haven't asked you this yet, but where does your parcel data live? Where's your best source of that?
To the county, right?
Yeah.
County has it.
Yeah.
So our goal would be to integrate with the county parcel data to pull it into the system so that you would just get it when your constituent supported stuff. So from here, I could go ahead and save this activity. And it's going to create my code case for me.
Okay.
So now here's the code case that gives you the file number at the top. Now we can go out and we can do, or now we can actually add violations to the inspection. So let's see if I have added one automatically. I did. So we'll open up this inspection activity. This is going to be a little bit different than the building inspection because we want to add violations here. So there is this little triangle at the top of the form. This is where we track our violation information. We want to load your jurisdiction's violations. If you give us a section, we can filter. So these are all the different sections, but I want to show you pre-filter. You get a huge list of these violations, right? And if we pick property maintenance, then here is it's a shorter list. I don't know if you even noticed that it is a shorter list, but this is a tall grass and weeds. So let's, I don't even think I have a tall grass and weeds, but I have an overgrown vegetation. So I've picked my description for my violation and it populates my code field, which is the only required field on this form, but I don't speak code. So your inspectors can pick the code number or they can pick the description and it'll load that information. Now you don't have to add anything else, but I want to show you the features of the system. So I'm going to add a comment. Grass must be mowed by return visit. Or whatever your process is, if you're going to issue a letter or whatever, you make that appropriate comment. And then if I give a follow-up date, the system is automatically going to create a follow-up activity for me. So let's give it a 2-week period, and then I'm going to hit the save button. Now, this is a wizard. If I had another violation, I could hit save and add another. In fact, let's do that so you can see what it's like. The next window that popped up, this is the system saying you added a follow-up date. Do you want me to add a reinspection? I'm going to say yes. It does it for me automatically.
And
now,
will that give us an alarm?
It puts a task on your task list or a calendar event for you.
Okay, cool.
So and that's your reinspection activity. So you just go back out and do it. So let's say there was an abandoned vehicle on the street that you also wanted to cite. So I picked that, and our comment is going to be must tow vehicle from street by return visit. And we'll give them the same follow-up date, but if you didn't, it would prompt you again and it would create a follow-up date for each different follow-up date that you gave it, right? So you could have as many activities as you need. So this is our second violation. When I click save, it's added those to the violations tab. In this environment, we're set up to issue a notice of violation. So if you want to note that here, you can, but you don't have to. But when I issue a letter, it's going to close my activity for me. So I'm going to add a completion date. Oh, sorry. And we'll give it a status of follow-up required. And then when I generate my citation notice, sorry, it's too early for that. When I generate my violation notice, I'm picking, oh, you know what? We took a picture. I was like, we don't have any photos, but we do. That's how we started. I'm going to pick the notification that I want to send, which in this case is a notification of violation. This is where we'd send your tall grass notifications, like your 1 week or whatever your follow-ups are. This is just our sample built out in this system. And it detects that there are photos there. So it lets me pick my on-site photo. And then I can generate this letter. Oh, this last field here, certified mail number, this is an example of a letter variable. So if your inspectors need to add a license number or a hearing date, it would just be through a variable field like this. So I'm just going to put in, you know, a certified mail number, and then when we hit generate, it's going to pull that information into our template. So we've got the owner information at the top. We have our 2 violations listed, including our comments and the corrected by date. And then below we have our photograph of my monitor. But imagine this is like tall grass and weeds and an abandoned vehicle.
Right.
So this can be printed out to Bluetooth, or, you know, and posted on the site, or you save it and you can print it at the end of the day. That's what I'm going to do. We'll save the activity. It's going to close this window down and take me to the documents tab. And you can see this first thing is our picture. And then we have our notice of violation that got generated. If we look at the violations tab, it's going to show both of those violations that have been added. If you open these, you can abate these individually. If there's just a one-off that you need to come in here and do that, you can do that. In the activities tab, we're going to see our completed inspection activity at the bottom, and then we see our future inspection, right, the reinspection, and that's going to be on your task list as well. So let's jump forward 2 weeks. Let's say it's the 25th. It's time for us to go reinspect. We just open up this activity, and here we have just our basic inspection information, but at the bottom we see our 2 violations, or sorry, we have a violation listing here. So let's say we roll up and the grass has been mowed. I'm going to pick my violation from my list of 2. And when I click on the ellipses, it's going to allow me to edit this violation and I can abate it. So we'll give it a disposition of abated and we'll put it to closed. That's going to give it an automatic close date. And when I save it, it's going to update that violation on the violations tab. But the car is still on site. So it's time to issue a ticket. Of course, your workflow could differ from this. If you wanted to leave a note, you could. Grass is mowed, but car is present, issuing citation. I have a coworker named Kara, so it thinks car is Kara. Car is present. We'll just do it possessive. All right, so I'm going to, again, I want to add the completion date and I want to complete my activity because when I generate that notice, it's going to close this window down. So that's just going to save me some time. I'll give it a status of follow-up required. And then I'm going to pick this letter. So I'll pick my citation. Now in this instance, we'll still add our same photo. This doesn't have any additional variables to enter, but you could do that if you had things that you needed to enter. It's an option for every letter. Here's the ticket notice. It looks very similar to our notice of violation, but this is done through HTML. So don't be limited by this. This is just for our, you know, our demo environment. We can build yours to include what it wants. I want to point out that in the center under our violation, you see a daily fine of $250. So this is a letter that's generated through SQL, and the SQL is actually kicking off a process to add a $250 fine to the open violations on this. So we have a lot of power in our computing here so that when you complete an activity or you generate a letter, we can trigger things like adding those fees, and we'll get to see that in a second. And then here's our photo. So we can print this again on site. We can save it to the case. It takes us back to the documents tab.
Okay, this on this page.
Yeah.
See, you got the trash can, you can delete them. Does that go to a trash can or is that deleted altogether?
It deletes it all together.
It does. Okay, so once you write in there that it's completed, you can leave it on there so just so you can see if they had violations before. Okay.
And this is role-based. If you don't want your inspectors to be able to delete those pictures off, we just don't give them delete rights on the file.
Okay. All right.
Right, 'cause it's a matter
Yeah, I
of
just wanted to know if it went to a trash can. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So on the violations tab, right, we've completed one of those violations. We closed it, and that's at the bottom. The abandoned wrecked vehicles is still open. So this would require a follow-up visit, right?
Right, okay.
I wanted to take you to the fees tab and show you that a $250 fine has now been added for that fee. So that's another option for you. In this case, the only other thing that we like to point out about our our code options is that to escalate this to another department, we can show you how to just create a report of this particular case. So on the left-hand side, there's a run report option.
Okay.
So we'll pick our report, the file summary report. And this is going to pull all the data in from the case file. So we don't save this out. You can print this out if you
Right.
want. And you can print it to PDF and you can email it out, or you can print it out and hand it off. But all of this data is always going to be on the case. So we don't save this. But it has file information at the top, and you can see the inspection history. And then we see the 2 violations and then our documents here. And if we had complainant information, which we didn't add in this case, but let's talk about, that would also be included. So you can add contacts to the case just through the add button. You could have also added it on the file. So if we go back and look at this, this file, there is a additional contact field here. It lists the property owner, right, that comes in through the parcel data. But if you got this from somebody complaining, you could add their information here. It would allow you to send them notifications or updates, and they could check on the status of this project. But the ownership information is listed here if you wanted to add them as a contact. Actually, I don't know why you do that, but you could add any of your contacts here. So maybe let's add a contact. So I'm just going to type in Mish and we'll do a search. This is not adding a contact. It's going to search the contact listing so that you don't add duplicates. And here's how many times Mish is found. So I'm going to select me, and it's going to add me as a contact. Here I can look at the notes on my account. I can click this other files icon, and this is going to show how else this contact is involved in the community. So it's spinning a lot because I'm involved in every permit that I've ever demoed, or every license that I've ever demoed, any complaint that I've ever done. It lists that all here. And so this is showing everything that I'm involved in. And we think that this is important, right? So that you can see how your constituents are involved in the township.
And it shows that they've gotten permits on the property and everything.
So this is on a contact, but we are parcel based. So what you want to see is the property information. So if you look at property history, this is a quick link that's going to pop up.
On the left-hand side, I see it. Okay.
This is the property information. So you can find this information here. And if you are, like, I don't see a filter bar here, but I want to take you to the property view. We're parcel based. So when we go to the property record, that's like going to the top of the pyramid. All of the files associated to that property are going to be available on the property record.
Okay.
So here it shows us that we're on this little map pin. That's the property record. This first tab is showing us property data. And we want to pull this in from your parcel information. So the stuff in the owner's information section, that's like the basic minimum data that we'll pull in. But underneath that, you see property information here. We can define as many attributes as you want us to, so we can pull in that data and make it available. Your building department may be interested in different data than your code department, but we can make that available. But then if you want to see the permits, you just click on the permits tab and it's going to show you all the permits on this particular property. You can see any licenses that are associated by clicking on the licenses tab. Oh, I've used this one a lot. And you'll see your inspection history here. So it's all aggregated under the property, but it's also aggregated under the person. So if you pull up a person, you're going to see all of the files associated with that user as well. All right, so I've been throwing information at you for the last 2 hours. Thank you for hanging in here, but I wonder, do you have any other questions? I have a little time to stay after if you need to. I know that we're at the top of our time.
No, I think it's nice. I like it. Yeah. You kind of hit everything. I just want to go through again. You know, if you can provide us with the website, maybe we can look at some demos, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
About
And then this recording would be helpful too, because I think we spent an excessive amount of time on permits,
Right.
and permits are huge component. All right, anybody have any other questions? I know a couple people are done at 4 and we're
Right.
over time, so I just wanted to
No, that was
see
great.
if you have any questions. Linda, do you have any questions? I would just encourage you all, they do have the demos on the website. They have demos, they have
Yes.
live demos, they have everything. This is a live demo now, which is 2 hours. So they have demos that you can actually watch on your own
Time, yeah.
time and go through it and look and see and compare to the other, to what we're doing now and how it would work. So we're trying to make a decision by the end of January, so we can get started at some point in this year.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's it. That's all from me. If I have any questions, I'll certainly send an email. I'm going to look at some of this stuff online myself, and then send any emails or follow up. Like I said, one of our code enforcement officers, he's out sick. So if you could send this, we'll have
Yes.
John and John check it out. Maybe even send it to him while he's home. He can look at it, but send this to him and have him look at it as well.
Right.
Okay.
This meeting just has to compile, but then I'll reply back
Okay.
to everyone and include
All
that
right.
as well as our website.
All right, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for your time today. Sorry, I was a little distracted with all this going on, but appreciate it. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank
Yeah, we do
you.
appreciate your
All right.
time. Have a great day,
Okay.
everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.